What an absolutely beautiful day for a beautiful message, at least from my perspective. I'm really happy to be here today with all of you, with some of my colleagues, President Adams and Representative Ellison. Appreciate you being with us today. We're also joined by a lot of friends, Chris and Clark Ivory, Lisa Eccles, Scott Anderson, and Gail Miller. I was just reminiscing a few minutes ago about some of these good folks, and Clark and Gail, in particular on this effort, not too long ago, we had a good conversation about our ability and interest in helping in this space, and they are incredible benefactors in our community, and it's not uncommon up here. In fact, it's become a regular occurrence for me, and I would imagine for a lot of other lawmakers, to be in a meeting and hear about a really great cause that's happening in our community. And then you hear the words, Gail Miller is helping support this. We would wonder if the state could help as well. And it happens all of the time. And Clark as well, and Scott, we hear your name a lot, and Zions Bank also. So we're just really grateful to have all of you and your leadership as we deal with some of the state's biggest challenges. Just over 40 days ago, and for some of us it might seem like a little bit longer than that, I opened this session with some remarks in the House highlighting both housing costs and homelessness issues being very important challenges for our state and warranting our immediate attention. Both of these issues have been challenges for the state for some time, but unfortunately they were exacerbated by the challenges of the pandemic. Over the past 10 years, average home prices here in the state of Utah have risen more than twice as fast as the median income of Utah residents. Like all of you, we appreciate at times when home values rise. It's good for us that own homes. But then we start thinking about what are our kids or our grandkids going to do, and recognizing that they're going to have to move away from the place that we live so that they can afford to buy a home. And that's not good. That's not good for us. Also, the lack of homes priced here in our state for those looking to buy a first time is not just a real challenge, but we also see a big challenge with those that are looking for a more affordable option, a place that's maybe a little less expensive, and that also is providing a real challenge for Utahns. Homelessness is another critical issue in the state, and it absolutely demands our immediate attention. There are families struggling with homelessness all across the state, from the top of the state to the bottom. These are not issues, and we know this, that government can solve alone, however. We can't solve this problem just on our own. We need to come together as a state, like we're doing today, and solve some of these big challenges and try to make a big difference. So to address this challenge, we are going to do something big, and we're happy to announce today that we will use $50 million of state funds through the support and with the support of our philanthropic community, represented by these good people to my right, to amplify the state's investment of $50 million and see about $750 million get put to work to help solve our housing affordability and our homelessness challenges here in the state. This money is going to be directed towards preserving existing affordable housing, producing new affordable housing, and supporting the new homelessness governance bill and model that we're about to pass this legislative session. Helping those in need here in Utah is absolutely the Utah way. So is addressing our challenges in a collaborative manner. We all want to be part of a big solution to a big problem, and together we are going to do that today and much more. On behalf of my colleagues in the Utah House, I want to thank those of you that are here today. I also want to thank those that have been working diligently, not just on this complex problem, but on the very difficult problems we face and challenges we face as a state. After me, we will hear from Senate President Adams, followed by Clark Ivory, and then Gail Miller. So, President Adams.
Well, what a thrill it is to be here with Speaker Wilson and be part of this. You know, I come in the morning normally when it's dark, and I leave this building in the evening when it's dark. And it's kind of fun to come out and see the sun and actually see the sun shine on us. And I think it's very fitting because the sun is shining so brightly on Utah. We've talked before about the great things that are happening in the state. We've talked about the year of the tax cut. We've talked about year of education and what we've done for education. We've talked about the year for infrastructure, you know, the commitment we're making to infrastructure. But I think more importantly than all of those is the year to help those that are probably less fortunate than us. And we're here to do that today. We know Utah is the #1 state for upward mobility. And what does it mean to be #1 for upward mobility? It means someone who doesn't have a job they like can get a better job. It means someone who's homeless can maybe not be homeless. It means someone who makes pretty good money but would like to make more money can actually do better and support their family. That upward mobility is so key, and I think a great reason why so many people love Utah. And that's why it's a real honor for me to be here today. One of the things that we've noticed, and that is probably not as bright as what it should be, is we notice that in the capital city, homelessness is increasing. And that's a real concern for all of us. We can't sit back and allow that to happen. And again, it's great to be here with members of the legislature and so many significant members of our community, and the speakers mentioned those. But when we come together, we can help fix the problem. House Bill 347, Homeless Services Amendments, creates a homeless coordinator, which will help immensely to help address this problem. The coordinator will develop statewide strategies to plan to minimize homelessness and help advise on how we can utilize resources to better achieve and more effectively address the needs of individuals. The state, as a state, we're committed to taking care of individuals and making sure we have the available resources to help all individuals reach their potential. I'd like to again thank those who have been so involved, Representative Elison and many other colleagues in the legislature, and again, the great leadership of the community partners that are here with us. It's an honor to be here, and now we will have an honor to hear from both Clark Ivory and Gail Miller. Clark.
These are very polite claps in a little audience. Well, we cannot underestimate, in my opinion, the importance of today in giving more Utahns an opportunity to have safe and affordable housing, to take a step up, as President Adams has just mentioned. In my opinion, this is the biggest commitment our legislature has ever made toward homelessness and housing our most vulnerable. What a powerful statement that is. The powerful statement, think of it, legislature gives $50 million in additional funding toward homeless and critical housing needs. That's a big deal. Why is it so critical? According to Jim Wood, we still have 59,000 households in Utah that are considered extremely low income. Who are we talking about when we mention these 59,000 families and households? Well, 37,000 of these families don't receive any assistance whatsoever. 2,200 of them are single parents with a kid under 5 years old. 9,200 are larger households who are often also caring for a parent. 5,600 are struggling seniors who live on their own. 2,500 have disabilities. In most of these cases, these families are spending more than half their income on rent. This means they are one illness or one car repair away from being on the street or not making it. I want to express my thanks today for our legislative leadership. Speaker Wilson, President Adams, Representative Elison, and Senator Andrigg. These guys have really made it happen. They've been champions of the cause. I also want to thank Abby Osborne, who has absolutely worked tirelessly with legislators to assist them in helping this move along. I want to thank my wife, Christine, who is always encouraging us to do better things. And I want to thank Gail Miller, Natalie Gochner, Scott Anderson, Lisa Eccles, Shailene Gee, Michael Parker, and numerous community leaders and advocates who have come together to recommend improvements in how we will and must restructure the way we collaborate on homeless issues. Just a few months ago, as Brad suggested, this group of leaders from the private sector met with legislative leadership and expressed appreciation for the remarkable efforts they have had in helping to keep our state safe while still keeping our economy going. And we have fared so much better than this year than what we had thought. We then expressed how critical it is to deal with another crisis. Like many Western states, Utah has a homeless crisis, and we also have a housing crisis. In order to encourage the legislature to move forward in a big way, the private sector committed to more than match the state's commitment we are hearing about today. Gail Miller has been riveted on the homeless issue and will shortly tell us how the community will raise $15 million of additional money to match the commitment that will go to the homeless. I want to thank the team at the Olin Walker Housing Trust Fund, who has already developed 22,000 affordable units in the state. They will take this $10 million and turn it into more than 1,000 affordable housing units. I want to thank Mary and Willie and the team from Utah Nonprofit Housing Corp. Doug and Craig are here today. We see Nick also, who's on the board. Just a year ago, they helped launch the Utah Housing Preservation Fund. In less than 1 year, they have already purchased and done repairs on more than 300 units. With the state's $25 million going to preservation, those supporting the Utah Housing Preservation Fund will have the task to go out and raise $75 million of private donations and PRI investments to help preserve and repair $500 million of our most affordable housing. Another $400 million will come from our community banks. All of this will add up to nearly 3,000 more homes for families who need it the most. 30% of the effort will focus on rural communities in Utah. This is not an issue that's just right here along the Wasatch Front. Every part of our state is being impacted. So why is preservation so key? Well, the builders here today, and there are a couple. Oh, we're going to get a hand for that, I thought. We know that we just cannot build housing affordable enough to take care of the needs of these 59,000 extremely low-income families. And it's getting much tougher. Yesterday I was looking at yet another lumber price increase. We have seen lumber products go up $24,000 in the past 12 months on our average house. This is killing us and making it very difficult to deliver on any sort of affordable product. I mentioned a lot of numbers today, but it's the impact on individual families and people that matters most. In the past week, I've heard about 4 families who have recently moved into our rehab departments, part of the Preservation Fund, and in each case, we are aware that without that opportunity, they would have had no place to go and likely would have been homeless. Thanks again to all of you who are providing leadership and solutions in this area that's so critical. I now turn the time over to Gail.
Thank you, Clark. I appreciate your words. You're so thoughtful and inclusive of all the points that we need to consider. I also want to thank President Adams, Speaker Wilson, the legislature, our governor, and all those who've been committed to these pressing issues and to Utah's most vulnerable. A big thank you to those in the philanthropic community for your benevolence and your desire to enrich the lives of our neighbors and our friends, some of whom are homeless. And finally, I am grateful to our local governments, the cities and counties, and our homeless service providers. You are at the center of this daily work. Good things are taking place, and we're deploying innovative solutions and seeing positive impacts. I have been engaged in advocating for and serving our homeless population for a long time. I've witnessed many heartbreaking situations, but I've also seen miraculous interventions. Homelessness is one of our state's most pressing issues. It's driven by a myriad of issues ranging from mental health, abuse, lack of education, unemployment, addiction, and sometimes just downright bad luck. Those of us involved in the behind-the-scenes approach know that we have seen some really tough times, but we've also made great strides in our important work to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. This is a tribute to the leaders of our state, our local communities, and our providers. But make no mistake, we are at a critical point. To ensure that we don't take steps backward, we need a framework, governance, and additional resources. The current situation and structure has alignment and capacity issues, conflicts, and inefficiencies. This past summer, the legislature commissioned the Kim C. Gardner Policy Institute to embark on a study of the current homeless structure as far as governance. Clark, myself, and others were happy to participate in funding this work. Natalie Gochner did a great job, as well as Shailene Gee, whose knowledge is incredible about the homeless situation. There were many other talented individuals who collaborated and many stakeholders who worked together to solve the homeless issues. The outcome was a report containing 6 key recommendations that, if followed, will create a simpler, more transparent, and coordinated system that is even more effective. It will also be more efficient, and it will save money over the long term. The recommendation is built upon what is working and the outcome of a very collaborative process. We know intuitively, and it was backed by the study, that governance is the key. By implementing a well-defined statewide and system-wide governance structure, improved accountability requirements, and a good funding model, we will best serve the state. House Bill 347 took into account the recommendations, and with legislative and executive branch support, it will now restructure top-level governance, creating a state homeless services coordinator that reports directly to the governor. Also, we'll create a Utah Homeless Council, serving as the state's decision-making policy or body for homelessness. It improves local coordination and includes service providers in the governance model, a critical point. It creates a first-ever coordinated statewide budget for homelessness, and it encourages greater philanthropic engagement. I want to talk about these last two because they go hand in hand. I believe the philanthropic community and legislature are aligned. They are aligned to improve governance, transparency, and accountability, and that's critical. It gives us all greater confidence to bring additional resources. I do want to thank our state leaders for seeing the value in a statewide homeless budget. As Clark mentioned, the legislature appropriated $15 million toward the budget, and we could not be more pleased. So thank you again. The philanthropic community and local governments will work to match that $15 million. That will go a long ways toward helping the homeless. Private funders in the state have already begun collaborating in a more effective manner, creating the Utah Impact Partnership, which will be represented on the Utah Homeless Council. This puts philanthropists in coordination with governance. I want to conclude by sharing my optimism for what lies ahead. We have strong leaders, kind hearts, and unified vision in our state. So thank you, Speaker Wilson, for highlighting the Utah way. This truly is one of our great examples of the Utah way. Thank you.
We done? You want to do questions?
Go ahead and see if there's any questions.
Thank you for coming. We can maybe answer a question or two if there are any from the media. Otherwise, we'll send you along your merry way.
I see the state investment and then it leads to the total impact. For those of us who don't have a very good economic understanding, how does that investment lead to such a bigger impact? Can you explain how that translates?
I'm going to ask Clark to talk about that, if you don't mind, Clark.
Want to maybe repeat the question?
Yeah. So just what you want to know is just how we end up taking 50 million and making 750 million.
Yeah.
And so on the homelessness side, Gail was just talking about how $15 million of state funds needs to be matched by other donations in the community and from philanthropists. So that adds up to 30 million. And then as you look at the rest, you're almost able to get 80% financing on most of the housing that will be produced, whether it's new or preserved, from community banks. But 20% will have to be put in as equity investment, and that comes from a combination of 1/4 of that coming from this state appropriation and the balance of it coming from philanthropists who are also willing to give money into projects or to the preservation fund. And it also comes from, in the case of the Olin Walker Housing Trust Fund, other developers that will be putting their own skin in the game as well. So all of this sort of gets levered up, just like when you go buy a house, how much do you have to have out of your own pocket? It's somewhere between 5 and 20%. Most of what we are doing here today is saying we're going to put 20% of our cash forward, of which 1/4 of that is coming from the state. The other 150 million of it really is coming from either donations from the community, philanthropists, or investors who are putting money into the projects. Does that make sense?
I'm sure it does.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for coming, everyone. Have a great and beautiful day.